Hey, what is going on, you guys? It is Mr. No Sleep here from Old School RuneScape, and welcome to a brand new loot video for you all today. So today I bring you a little bit of a different style loot video. This is going to be loot from 100 Grand Exchange flips, starting with 100 mil cash. So one rule before we get started in this video is that we can flip as much of one item as possible as long as it's the same offer. Basically, as soon as the item finishes selling, that will make one complete offer, and then we will have 99 left to go until the video is complete, and at the very end we will see how much money we can make starting with 100 mil from 100 flips. And what you're seeing on screen here is essentially how you set up any flip with any item. You just buy the item that you want to flip. In this case it was a Fury for 5% over price, and then once you get it you sell it for 5% under. Now this way you see how much money you lost based on your Grand Exchange history, and whatever that number is, maybe it's 10k on a Fury, your job is to now flip that Fury for 9k. You're gonna want to undercut whatever the current profit margin is on whatever item you are flipping. So you're always gonna be losing money on your very first item. That's just kind of so you know how much, the profit is at that time and how much you have to undercut it so that you can be making that profit. Now, because of this undercutting system, it's really rare that you're gonna have one single Grand Exchange offer sell all the items entirely. For example, if you're trying to sell 14 Aram's rope tops, sometimes you might have to lower the price if enough minutes go by and not all of them are selling. So I did encounter that problem. How was I going to keep track of all these offers if I keep having to cancel them and then reset them? Basically, this is why I used a notepad document alongside one of the most helpful tips on RuneLite as it pertains to flipping. It is a plugin called Flipping Utilities, and this plugin was used the whole entire time to track my profit and to track the amount of items and the amount of flips that I did. But since I had to continue to reset so many items and continue to lower the price of things as this video will go on, that's where the notepad document came in and was able to keep track of everything for what it was. And at the very end of the video, when we get to the price check, you guys will see a screenshot or two of that notepad document, all the 1 to 100 flips throughout this video, and of course all the profit that we did make from it. And in a little bit here I will be showing the RuneLite plugin that I was talking about before, the Flipping Utilities plugin, which is truly something that is worth checking out, especially if you're looking into flipping. I myself never really did much flipping in this game. I think I started it a couple years ago after I saw one guy make a video on it, and basically he explained this 5% over and 5% under system that I talked about in the beginning, and I never knew how easy it was to actually flip in this game. And I think when the Grand Exchange came out, I really should have gotten into it more, but now that I've seen so many people do it before, I figured it was time to make a video on it. Although you guys don't really get to see a lot of different drops during this video, you do get to see a lot of different items. Over 35 items were flipped in the making of this video. I was originally going to try to flip 100 items. I thought that would make for a cool title. 100 mil, 100 flips, and 100 different items. But yeah, that was a little too much, so I just kind of went with the items that I knew would always ensure profit. And chronologically, for the first 10 minutes of this video, every single clip that you guys see is in order. So what I wanted to do was pretty much show you guys how I was doing all the items, and a lot of the items, you will see them kind of repeat over time. But once we get to the 10-minute mark, the rest of the video I kind of sped up, because had I actually recorded every flip like I'm showing now, this video would have been like 30 to 40 minutes, because it was actually a lot of recording, more than I thought it would be. As a matter of fact, right here, this is 9 flips into the video, and we had already made 1.6 mil. And what you're about to see on the right-hand side of the screen of the RuneLite client is the Flipping Utilities, and as you can see, it's really tracking everything: the total revenue, the total expenses, the items flipped, and as well as the profit. Now that was just kind of a short preview of that, but you kind of get the idea, especially if you have used that before, and you will see that pop up time to time in the video. There it is again, and it would be nice to have that showing on screen at all times, but unfortunately it does make the RuneLite client disappear, so you gotta kind of show it, every now and again rather than the whole time. And just like individually high-priced items, cheap stackable items are flippable as well. Originally I started with Amulets of Glory. You figure there's always people buying and selling those, but then I did move on to superior dragon bones, normal dragon bones, super restores, prayer potions, Ceradome and brews. I mean, the list goes on, but out of all those stackable items, the superior dragon bones seem to do the best. And as it goes for the expensive item flips, and there certainly was a lot, ranging from bandos to armadillo to amulets and much more, out of all that, the most profitable item to flip was by far, and even for the whole video, the Dexterous Prayer Scroll. This item always did well, and that's why you'll see it reappear many times throughout the 100. At one point, I did manage to get a 1.2 mil flip just from the Dex Scroll. Also saw some nice numbers with the Bandos items, you know, occasionally up to 400k on the BGS, 500k on the Tacits a few times. And Barrows was always a safe flip too, mainly the Arums, but I would expect DH and Carols to be good too. You can always expect PKing items like the Toxic Staves of the Dead, the Elder Mauls, the Dragon Claws. All those items were pretty good to flip. I'd say out of all those, the Dragon Claws were the best. And believe it or not, I actually did lose 20k on Abyssal Whips. I did think it would be a good idea to buy a bulk amount of those, but unfortunately they didn't end up selling, so I did lose 20k. And I also lost 16k on an Arcane Prayer Scroll flip. But other than that, the other 98 flips were all profitable. You know, you can't expect to always make money with every flip. You might have bad luck with an item, or someone just might be undercutting you at the best times. So staying logged in is also important because prices can fluctuate, so try not to leave an item buying in overnight. Selling is fine, but buying's a little bit riskier. Smarter to just try to stay on the account, you know, whatever account you may be flipping with, AFKing on the GE screen. This video was all done on the alternate account, of course. This is the same account that's currently working on the Master Clue video and also the Kingdom video for Miscellanea and a couple other long-term projects. For this, you know, I'm really not too sure on how many hours this took. I would say it was all done on again, off again throughout the course of about a month to a month and a half. So I didn't really track the hours for this, but it really all depends on how much you play. Another thing to keep in mind, you know, you don't need to have 100 mil to start flipping. I would just say start with 10 mil, focus on lower priced items. You can't expect to make a lot right away, but you certainly shouldn't be losing anything from it. And at first, you know, you're going to be gaining a little bit of experience and a little bit of knowledge about flipping, maybe even long-term merchanting, and then you'll be gaining all the money that comes with it in no time. And for any old school player that does like flipping and merchanting, anything like that, I do highly recommend you check out the description below. There's a channel link in there to a guy named Flipping Old School, and he does the most detailed videos about this kind of stuff, and it really was him who inspired me to try out something like this. So yeah, big shout out to him. And here at this moment we were actually flipping Armadillo chain skirts, and this was actually one of my worst flips. I didn't lose money on it, but I only made 20k profit, and it took like an hour for all of them to sell. So I think it's definitely smarter to stick with Bandos more so than Armadillo. But yeah, I was also trying things like the Imbued Heart out. I think I got about 5 or 6 of those and made just shy of 500k from all of them, so those are a nice flipping item. And one thing to note about the wilderness weapons is I did look into those, and it seems like the only one that's actually worth flipping is the crossbow. I did make about 190k a couple times from them, but the Vigorous chain mace was just under 10k, and the scepter I believe was just shy of 15k. So certain wilderness weapons, you know, not the best, but other ones, more high priced ones, definitely worth looking into. I didn't do any Ring of the Gods or anything like that. Something that I do wish I would have done was dragon pickaxes. Looking back now, I'm not too sure why I didn't do that, but did a few dragon items. More so than anything was the dragon claws, because they were just always returning with consistent profit. And alongside all the thousands of glories that I would flip occasionally, we also did the eternal glory a few times, and every time we did the eternal glory it was always over 100k, so I would say that it's definitely worth it to look into that. I did a few bulwarks, but nothing really came of that. The bulwarks are really cheap right now, so you're not going to be making that much from those. As it goes for god swords, I didn't really touch Zami that much, but Bandos was always reliable. Armadillo was okay, but not the greatest amount. And Sarah was good too, also making 900k at one point just from some SGS flips. As it goes for spirit shields, I didn't mess with Arcane or Elysian obviously throughout this video, but we did do a few spectral flips, and one of them I actually did make over 400k from. And needless to say, but you always don't have to just focus on the most commonly sold items in the GE. If you want to flip other things, you know, very strange items that, you know, you would think would make good money, then there's always ways to do that. You know, certain items that are used for clue scrolls or maybe diaries, I'm sure if you have a bulk amount of them and you put them in the GE for overpriced, you'll always have someone buying them, and you know, you can end up making some good money off of something irregular rather than something common. And also for you free-to-players out there, you know, I know you guys don't have access to all the Grand Exchange slots. There is 8 of them, but you do have access to some, and you know, I'm sure you can make a little bit of money in free-to-play compared to, you know, other things in free-to-play, so you might want to try flipping on there, maybe earn a bond that way. And this here on screen was me just losing a little bit of GP from the Arcane Prayer Scrolls. you know, you got to really be careful when you're typing in the number that you want to sell the item for. Just kind of a reminder there. And look at the history of all those dexes. I tell you, this was just a hell of a reliable item. Probably not after this video anymore will it be good to flip, but yeah, always seeing nice returns on the dex scrolls. And it's at this point in the video where 10 mil profit was made, so I officially just wanted to fast forward the rest of all of these flips. I think at this point alone we were close to 40 flips overall, so I still had 60 left to do. And again, I was just kind of trying out some new items that I hadn't touched yet, and also, you know, similar items that I had been doing all video. With 35 different items, you can obviously expect to see, you know, the same items over and over again, but what you are seeing changing is the coin stack in the top left. Certainly changing a lot faster now than it was in the very beginning of the video, but yeah, anytime that the amount did change by 1 million, I did want to show that, and you know, just keeps on rising and rising. One of the most expensive items that I did flip just once was a Dragon Hunter Lance. Was definitely a risky item to go with, but I did get a few 100k from it, so no regrets on that one. And again, for any billionaire watching, this would only be more money for you. Of course, the more money you have, the more money you make. That's like the #1 rule with flipping. But the real question is, how much did we make from 100 mil from 100 flips? And the answer to that question is on screen right now. Ladies and gentlemen, loot from 100 flips, the profit does turn out to be 19,289,125 GP. And again, there was no requirements for this video other than having 100 mil cash to start with. You can do the same essential thing with 10 mil or anything relatable. You know, obviously you might not make as much, but here you go, looking at the flipping utilities here on RuneLite. What an amazing feature. As you can see, we made over 4.1 mil from the dex scrolls, close to 2 mil from the claws, 1 mil from tacits, a decent amount from the amulet of torture, and the list goes on and on. As you can see, the total items flipped were 15,540. Total flips made 325. Now, if you're confused as to why the video says loot from 100 flips, essentially that counted every single individual grand exchange offer. So anytime that I had to lower the amount of an item just so that it would sell, it would get counted as an extra offer. So I tracked everything individually by notepad, and alongside the item is written with all the profit next to it, so you guys can see it for yourself there. And hopefully those screenshots are on screen. I'm sure I'll fit them somewhere. But yeah, a big shout out to RuneLite for making this video possible. Big shout out to Flipping Old School for inspiring it. And yeah, maybe try out merchanting, guys. You're not a big fan of PVMing, you're not a big fan of PKing, there's always another way to make money. So with all that being said, thank you guys very much for watching, and until next time, Mr. No Sleep out.